New York in the 1940s. Florence Foster Jenkins aspires to become a great opera singer, unaware that her boundaries are very, very limited. She can barely hit a note. Her pitch is less than perfect. It has been a lifelong ambition to sing at Carnegie Hall. Now actor Diana Mclean is bringing to the stage Florence Foster Jenkins in a great story called Glorious. She's on the line right now. Diana, nice to have you with us today on the program.
Lovely to be here. Thank you.
It even cracked me up listening to that. I've heard it a few times, and you've got to laugh.
I sing that.
To Fledermaus, I think you might.
Very funny.
How hard is it when you do something like this, when you can sing, to sing off key?
Well, it's not too hard to sing opera off key because I'm not an opera singer.
Right.
So you can just slightly pitch it off, but opera's a whole different ball game. So and Florence unfortunately never realised that. And I think that's not too hard to make an awful hash of that, really.
So you make a dreadful hash of it too, do you?
I do, yeah. That and particularly Queen of the Night.
The Queen of the Night.
It's had people howling with laughter and pain. Particularly one night in Marimbula where we didn't have a proper piano, and the other actor who was playing it before, Mitch Roberts, he's now not doing the same part. He hit a button on the electric piano on stage, and we broke into rock and roll in the middle of Queen of the Night. And I just thought, oh well, what would Florence do? She'd just go on singing. So I did. And they thought it was all part of the show.
This is very different to the Young Doctors for you, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. That was before you headed back. Why did you go back to England for? You were there for about 16 years, weren't you?
Yeah, well, that's when I went back for 16 years.
Yes.
After Young Doctors, and then I went straight into a big show for the ABC called Winner Takes All with Tina Burstall and Ron Falk and various people. And then I got married again for my sins and went back to live in England with my then husband.
Yeah.
And I stayed away for a long time. I lived in France for about 6 years.
Did you? Yeah. And what brought you back?
I came back in the late 90s.
Right. And you were brought back why? What brought you back to Oz?
Well, quite honestly, you get to the stage where you think, why am I putting up... I mean, not France. France was lovely. But in London, it's mean on the streets there. The weather's awful. And, I don't know, I'm not a young actor anymore. I just suddenly thought I really need sunshine and beach and people saying hello to you, which they don't do a lot in London.
And you came back and you found all of those things in the beach and Bondi and all sorts of things.
I did. And then my son, who was over there working in advertising, he came back to visit me a few times and thought, oh, I think I'll come back too. And then he got married and came back and he stayed. He's got his own business.
There you are.
So, there you are.
There's something about Oz, isn't there?
When you travel Australia, you come back and you realise just how lucky we are. We really have the most amazing living conditions and beautiful country.
It really is a great country, yeah. How did Glorious come about?
And the more I travel around and touring, the more I'm seeing a lot of the country touring.
You would be, yeah.
Yeah, not just with Glorious. I toured up with a play called 4,000 Miles before that, and we toured for 3 or 4 months. That was fantastic, We went to Darwin, Alice Springs, and it's just an extraordinary country. It really is.
You probably see places that you hadn't seen before.
Absolutely. Never been there. No.
Tell me about Glorious. How did it come about?
They asked me to do it.
Yeah.
That came about. And I was aware of Florence before Meryl Streep. I've always been a voiceover artist, and in the 60s in Melbourne, I was asked to do this Mrs. Miller takeoff for Mobil Oil. And Mrs. Miller was worse than Florence, I think, but she sang pop songs.
She did. I remember it well.
And so I did a version of this for Mobil Oil, and in so doing, I started to research other people who sang badly, and Florence came up on the list, yeah.
Well, Mrs. Miller did Lover's Concerto. That comes to mind straight away. And of course, her songs went on the top 40. That was
They did. Well, I think if there'd been a top 40, Florence's probably would have too, because she became extremely followed by the gay population and the artistic population. They loved her, but they just couldn't believe how terrible she was. So she was fated by them. But she only actually sang commercially once at Carnegie Hall. The rest of it was all done privately in all the clubs she belonged to. So that's probably why she got away with it for so long.
Well, that was her goal, wasn't it? Her aim was to get to Carnegie Hall, and she did.
Yes. She did, and she filled the house. In fact, she more than filled the house. They had to turn about 2,000 people away. But I think that was the first time that she really saw how the reviews and everything were pretty scathing, and she died not long afterwards, about 6 weeks later. Some people say from the shock, but she had been very, very ill. Nobody ever realised, I don't think, quite how ill she was, because she had, when she'd run away from home, from her very wealthy family or father. She was an only child, and when she was 18, she ran off and married this doctor who was 20 years older against her father's wishes. So he cut her off without any money at all for a long time, and the doctor gave her syphilis.
Yeah.
So she was, the treatment in those days was mercury and what's the other? And mercury and you probably know. I can't think.
Mercury will do.
Anyway, mercury. Well, it was really, they treated sailors and things. It was savage stuff.
Yeah.
So she lost all her hair, and she would have been in a lot of pain in the joints and things, because she had originally been a good pianist.
Yes.
Classical pianist, but she said she'd done something to her hand. Well, I think done something to her hand probably meant like she lost all her hair and wore a wig. It was all to do with the syphilis treatment,
Yeah,
arsenic and mercury.
Arsenic. Okay, arsenic. Yeah, arsenic. That's enough to kill you, isn't it?
Well, it is. So she may have died from complications of that. Who knows? But also, I think it was a big shock to suddenly realised that she was no longer protected by her coterie of sycophantic people who were happy to have her donating all this money to their clubs and things. She suddenly was out there in the wide world, and they said exactly what they thought. But the reason we've still got it is because she did all this vanity recording. She recorded things of herself singing, and she was quite convinced that she was excellent. She couldn't hear it. She had a tin ear.
So, Inglorious, you take us from the 1940s?
Yeah. She died about 1947, I think it was. So it's round about that period. Yes. And it's a comedy. I mean, it's only a three-hander, this one. It's been cut down, so you don't get the husband, but it's very funny. It's really about Cosme and Florence. And there's a female actress who does about 3 different parts, but it all works. But it's a very funny play. People have really enjoyed it.
Well, even the movie was funny. It was great to go and see something like that. It was a lot of fun, a lot of laughter.
But it's sweet as well. You have to like Florence.
She gets you to feel sorry for her. You have to feel sorry for her.
Yeah, sort of. Yes, you don't feel well, I don't. I mean, I love her, and I think that's important for an activist to like the character you're playing, because otherwise the audience doesn't quite get it. You have to find that sympathy in the character, and I think she was just a very determined woman, but she was sweet with it,
Yes.
and eccentric. There should be more eccentric people. She was deeply eccentric.
She was eccentric, yeah, most certainly. How hard is it portraying something like this?
No, I haven't found her hard at all. Comedy, I like comedy, and comedy, I'm sorry for the old corny thing, but it is all a matter of timing. So if you get your timing right and you've got your character down, I think it's easy enough to portray. I've got something like 52 pages of dialogue where I don't really stop talking.
That's a heck of a lot.
Yeah, but you get there. But she just talks on. But it's funny, just the way you deliver it.
Diana, besides that piano going to rock and roll for you, what else funny has happened on stage?
Oh, that was the funniest.
Was it?
I mean, I don't know. There's always funny things happen in theatre, but things falling over and actors doing the wrong thing. I always remember years ago that I did one of those plays where cupboard doors open and shut, and of course, they didn't.
Yes.
And one stage, one of the actors shot out of the cupboard with his silly hat on and a feather, because he was at the wrong moment. And I always remember, I was quite a young actress then, standing on stage wondering whether I was going to wet my pants. That wasn't where he was supposed to be coming from at all. You just have to sort of keep on talking.
It's a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, things go wrong, and as I think, suppose the older you get too, but you just have to put it into the part, because otherwise you can't stop and say, oh gosh, that's wrong.
You've just got to go with it.
Yes, if something falls over, you sort of try and help pick it up as you continue talking.
Diana, you're down at the Frankston Arts Centre. It's a great venue down there.
Yes, I know. That's where we did 4,000 miles.
Yes, you did. Yes.
It's a lovely theatre.
It is.
Very nice.
It is.
I'm looking forward to it.
And it's right after Easter, Thursday, the 5th of April, 7:30. And you can book online or ring this number, 9784 1060. 9784 1060. Go and see Glorious. Diana, been a delight.
Also, just to let you know, we're mic'd as well. So anyone who's got hearing problems, I know they've got hearing facilities at Frankston, but you'll hear really well if you go, because it's all mic'd as well. So.
A pity that Florence didn't have a hearing aid in those days.
Just as well, I think.
Lovely to talk to you, Diana. We're going to see you on the night. I'll be there in the audience, so we'll say hello afterwards.
Wonderful.
Delightful.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Ian.
Right.
Take care. Bye-bye to you.
Bye. Bye.